Welcome to the Build Your Beautiful Business podcast with your host, Julie C. Butler. If you're looking to build the business of your dreams, then this is the space you want to be in. Join Julie as she talks about ways that you can successfully scale your profitable dream business, one that will give you ultimate time freedom and the abundant lifestyle you deserve. Julie will take you by the hand, sharing with you her business savvy strategies as she chats it up with her favorite online entrepreneurs. You'll get a weekly dose of boosted confidence as you learn as they reveal their insight, tips, and tools that you need to start building a profitable dream business of your own, one that you'll love and that works for you on autopilot.
Hey there, and welcome back to the show. Today on the show, we have Olivia Radcliffe. Olivia is the founder of the Bluebell Group, is a much sought after expert in authentic marketing and business strategy. She works with moms, with businesses, meeting them at the intersection of life and business, healing what is holding them back, and then helping them use their unique strengths and schedule needs to create a business that stands out and enhances their personal lifestyle goals. Olivia is also a five-time international best-selling author, women's empowerment speaker, certified life coach, co-creator of the Life Like a Mother movement, and co-host of the Marketing Like a Mother podcast. Her favorite title, though, is mom to her toddler son and German Shepherd. Hello, and welcome back to the show. I have the beautiful Olivia Radcliffe with me today. Hi, Olivia. How are you?
Hello. I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I'm so excited. I did an interview to be on your podcast just a few weeks ago, so it seems like we just hung out.
Yeah. Well, and if this podcast episode goes like anything like what we talked about before, then we're in for a good show. This is going to be good.
Absolutely. And you know what? Like, I truly believe also, like, I really attract my tribe. Like I focus so much on being part of and being surrounded by like-minded entrepreneurs that it's kind of like who I attract anyway. And I'm sure it's the same with you.
Yeah.
Then don't you find that like every time you get on an interview for the podcast with someone new that you've not met before, and it's like so amazing, these new connections that you make, and you're like, wow, it's like we've been friends forever, right?
Yeah, exactly. I feel like I've known you forever. And
I know.
Perfect.
I love that. And so we're recording this while your son sleeps.
Yes.
So we'll dive right in. But before we get started, you want to tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Olivia Radcliffe. I am a boy mom, a dog mom. I'm a marketing coach, a business coach, an international best-selling author, and a whole slew of other titles. But mainly, I work with moms in businesses or moms looking to start a business, and I meet them at that intersection of life and business and help them look at their strengths and their weaknesses, their schedule needs, where they want to be with their life, and create a truly standout business that actually takes all of that into consideration. So it will fit whatever their lifestyle desires are.
I love that. And it doesn't matter what mom phase you're at in your business, right? Like whether you have a toddler or teenagers or your kids are older and taking care of themselves, it doesn't matter, because I think that, at some point in time, we decided to start a business so that we can live our life by design. And so I think that is so important. And I love what we're going to talk about today, because we're going to talk about growing a business with minimal time and or mental bandwidth. And I think that is so important to I think nip that in the bud from the beginning, so that you can have balance in your business and life, and vice versa, right?
Mm-hmm. I think so many people get caught up in this kind of journey to find this work-life balance and this perfect, I think a lot of people think work-life balance is this 50-50 shift. It's half my time in work, half my time doing life. When the reality is, especially if you're a solopreneur, an entrepreneur,
we are who we are, regardless of if we're working or if we're living
Mm-hmm.
our lives. And we want all of that to feel good.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to just at the end of the workday, take that hat off and you're not thinking about work ever again. Like you can set boundaries and not take meetings and everything, but we're not different people. We're the same person. And
Mm-hmm.
so I firmly believe in finding kind of this work-life equation, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
where sometimes you might need to work a little more, sometimes you might need to work less and go on vacation and have the plans, the systems in place that allow you to do that.
Mm-hmm. Because there's definitely going to be those times where you have to work extra, where, creating a new project or a program is a lot of work. Like we're not going to lie and sit here and say that everything's going to be easy and you can work 2 hours a day and you'll be fine. Your business is going to be gold. It does take at some point in our business journey, you have to put in the time to create the things and the systems and the automation so that your business allows you to have that freedom, right?
Right. Exactly.
But it's all good and fun. like right now, before I hit the record button, I was just telling Olivia that I launched my podcast. I'm working on my summit, hosting my summit. And also I've decided that I'm going to launch my program in the next few weeks. And so, these are all things that I'm willing to put the work in and the effort in now so that I have these things set up and working for me on autopilot in a few months from now.
Yeah, exactly. There's going to be times where you're speaking at a conference or traveling to a conference or launching something. And yeah, it's going to take a little bit more time and mental bandwidth than later on when you've turned everything evergreen and you have a break and can go on vacation or take time off.
Yeah. And then you have a business set up that you can work up a couple of hours a day or a couple of days a week, whatever that looks like for you. But we can design that, right? Based on, Okay. So let's get into it because I want to start like getting into the nitty gritty. Okay. So I have some questions here. So what are some effective marketing strategies that can help you grow your business without taking up too much time? So this is like a big one, right?
I was gonna say you hit me with a big one right out of the gate.
I know. I'm like, ooh, maybe that one should have been lower down on the list. But the thing is that I've caught myself in this hamster wheel of like, I think myself. Sometimes I think so much, like it's a full-time job just thinking about doing the thing sometimes. Right?
Yeah, there can be a pretty big rabbit hole there with getting into the details. And this is a really good question. And it's something that my audience comes to me for a lot because I have a toddler that I work from home with. I have a hand in 3 businesses. I am so strapped for time and mental bandwidth, and I don't have time to do some of the quote unquote traditional marketing approaches. I've had coaches tell me I need to post on social media multiple times a day, every single day, and get at least 1 blog out a week and email my email list every single day, and also do other video content and this and that. And somewhere in there, I'm supposed to remember to breathe and feed myself and my small child. And it gets really hard to balance all of that. So what I have found with my marketing approach is I've kind of scrapped everything that doesn't feel good to me. I've come back to my strengths and what works for my schedule. And so for me, I am naturally, I love writing, and I will toot my own horn and say that I'm a pretty darn good writer most of the time. And so for me, one of my marketing strategies is I write for a lot of other publications. I am a guest contributor, or I'm an executive contributor at multiple magazines. And I do my own writing, and I've done collaborative books, and I'm writing my own book and all sorts of things. And I have a lot of people who come into my world from that avenue. And that's something that's very easy to me because it's my natural strength. It feels good to me. And so if that doesn't feel good to you, I would just ask, what are your natural strengths? What does feel easy? What could you sit down and do and it doesn't really feel like work? And focus on ways to do that with your marketing, whether that's putting together video or maybe it is networking on social media or something. it's not so much the different strategy as it is finding what feels good to you.
I love that so much. And I think there was someone else I was talking to about this, Allison, and we were talking about, and her interview was like all about like, we don't have to show up on Instagram or Facebook every single day, like 2-3 times a day. We don't have to do that.
Yeah.
And I love how you say like, do what feels good for you. Like that's what we are now. So full permission to stop doing all the things that don't feel right and or in alignment with you. And like take some time, have a think on what do you like to do? How does that, like, how do the things feel for you? And just go with that. And I kind of did that. I fell into that trap before Christmas. I was like, you know what? Like I have to do a post on Monday. And then if I do a talking reel on Tuesday and then another post on this day and that, and it wasn't in alignment. And I kind of like, I got to a place where I'm like, I'm like, no more, no social media for me anymore for the next, I don't know, however long. I took a break. Like, I think like what seemed like maybe 2 months. And I reevaluated. I was like, you know what? This doesn't feel right for me showing up and spending so much of my energy and my time, right? Like that's what we're talking about, our time and energy, right? We need to keep that energy to like, for our family, like number one for ourselves, and then second, our family, or like if you're a single mom or whatever, you don't have time to waste thinking about spending an hour creating a reel and then, oh my God, you got to create the graphic for the cover and or if you want to create a carousel and whatnot, like that is such a time sucker for those of us who it doesn't come naturally to do it that way, right? Because for some people, they can nail that out of the park in a half hour a week, and they've got their whole week laid out. Like that's right. Like that happens too, and that's okay. Whatever you choose to do. But guess what? Now that I'm doing what I want to do, I show up how I want to show up. I post when I want to post. I do, now that I have the podcast, I do the video reel thingy.
Yeah.
I'm getting like a ton of engagement. People are following me and I'm like, I thought about it this morning. I was letting the dogs out and I'm like, wow. I'm like, it's working just as much, if not better, than when I was trying to do it the way we are told to do.
Yeah. Well, and your energy is better when you do it.
Yeah.
You like it. If you're doing something you like, you enjoy, then that I firmly believe absolutely comes across in your marketing, and your audience will definitely feel that. If you're doing something that's a complete drag and you hate doing it, that energy will also come across. Now, I do want to be clear though and say like, it's not all rainbows and butterflies. There are things that we have to do that we don't want to do, like taxes and taking the garbage out and, all sorts of stuff in our businesses that we do need to do to keep things running. And I'm not saying, everything has to be fun and perfect, but where you can, if you can prioritize those things that are your natural strengths, your natural talents, then that's where you should push that energy.
Yes. And I mean, the other things too, like if we're at a place where we can outsource some of those things, maybe,
absolutely.
Right. Or also like maybe have one day where you do the non-fun stuff, right? Like one day a week or one day a month where we do, okay, like, cause like, collecting data and, having like a CEO half a day or a day is important also in the success of our businesses. So definitely there are those little things that we're not all going to love, but part of the journey, right?
I have one client who she pairs something she really hates doing with something she really loves doing. So she'll do the thing she hates doing first and then reward herself with doing the really fun thing. So
I do that too.
Yeah.
Like I love working on design, creating website pages and stuff like that. That's the stuff that I'm like, I get my creative out. And so I'm like, okay, I got to write the emails first and then I can work on the design.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but that's a good, really good tip. Like you do the thing do the things you don't particularly care for first, right? Do them, get them off your list, and then move on to the things you love and enjoy doing. So what are the common mistakes that entrepreneurs make when we're trying to grow a business with minimal time?
Doing everything all at once. And
That's a big one.
that's a big one. There's a lot. I work with a lot of people who have very limited time, or,
Mhm.
they're trying to grow their business during nap time or something. And they try to tackle all the little things. They'll have a business coach or a program or something they're doing that is telling them to do all of these little things in marketing and their business, and tracking this and tracking that and doing that kind of networking. And they just don't have time to do it.
Mhm.
So, I like to say you can do anything, but you cannot do everything all at once. And so you need to stop and take a moment and actually prioritize what actually is going to move the needle further for you
Mhm.
than the other things. And you can always get to the other things later, but always focusing on that urgent and important thing. And then the next question I get often is, but what if I have multiple urgent and important things? And that's a very real scenario. And in that case, it's you focus on the next right thing. Just focus on one, put all of your attention towards it right then and there, and
Mhm.
get that checked off your list, and then focus to the next.
Mhm.
I see a lot of people falling in the trap of trying to multitask and
Mhm.
trying to get a whole bunch of stuff done. And multitasking actually backfires majority of the time, because our brains cannot just jump from one task to another, to another, to another as
Mhm.
consistently as we are trying to make it. And so it ends up that we're not spending our focus time, our focus energy on any one thing. And so we have a lot of things that are just kind of half done, and we feel burned out, and we're not actually making the progress because we're not actually finishing anything. So
That's such a good point. But also, if you had two important things that you needed to work on, you could like dedicate one day to that one project,
Mhm.
and then dedicate the second day to the other project, and like rotate, right? That
Yeah,
way
yeah.
you're full. Because I did this, like I was doing this like a few weeks ago. I was like, okay, I have three projects that I'm working on. They're all important. And I would try to do three in one day. Like I wasn't getting ahead because I was like, I didn't know if I was coming or going. And then I would sit there for a half hour before I decided what to do, like such a waste of time. Right. But if you dedicate, like Monday is my project A day, I'm only going to focus on that. I might even think about the other project, and then
Mhm.
just spend all of my focus, my energy, and go down the to-do list and work on those things that are going to, achieve that project. But we're multi-passionate, right? And we have all of these ideas. And I have a friend, and she's the same. She has all of these ideas. And she's like, and my membership, and then, I can do this and I can do that. And I'm like, okay, come back down to earth. What is the one thing that you can work on now that's going to bring you revenue? Let's do that.
Mhm.
Let's put the other things on a hold for now. But like that happens to all of us. It's happened to me before, where I'm like, I want to do this, and I want to create this course and this little mini workshop, and and do, like, it just happens because we're creatives and we're multi-passionate, right?
Yeah. Well, and the other thing I do like to tell people when it comes to creating that schedule and blocking off your time, like you're saying, maybe one
Mhm.
day for this, one day for that, is to stop and think of your personal priorities as well. So your personal time for yourself, which can be a very rare thing, but we all need to have,
Mhm.
time, self-care time, the time you want to spend with your family, your friends, those personal things, and put those on your calendar first
Yes.
before you block it off with all of your work stuff. Because those kinds of things cannot feel as urgent and important as some of the other work stuff once you get going.
Mhm.
And more often than not, that stuff gets pushed off, bumped off for later on a back burner. And that's, those are the things of why we decided to get into our own
Mhm.
businesses in the first place, right? And if you're not careful, you can find yourself skipping out on those things.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So important. Okay, I love that. So, did you have more strategies for growing a business when you have limited time and mental bandwidth? I know we kind of covered a little bit, but you want to go in deeper?
I mean, I could talk all day on this stuff, of course. No, so my favorite word is
Hmm.
asynchronous. I am all about fitting in asynchronicity wherever you can, and that just means doing things not necessarily at the same time. So in one of my businesses, I have a business partner. She is in France. I'm in the US. We are 6 hours apart. On a good day, it's daylight savings right now. So I have no idea how far apart we are. So
I
we have
think
no
they,
idea what time.
I think they may, I don't think they changed their time yet.
They changed. It just hasn't been yet. And so, yeah,
So I think we're 6 hours now. Well, wait, where are you,
I think
Olivia?
we're
I forget now.
seven.
Are you
I don't
Eastern
know.
time?
Yeah, I'm Eastern.
Okay, so I think we're either 6 or 5.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so we do a lot of our work asynchronously, where we will talk back and forth using like WhatsApp, just doing voice messages. We do a lot of meetings that way. We use project management platforms like ClickUp to store all of our tasks and documents and things we're working on. We collaborate on documents together. And I found that you can use these asynchronous strategies also in your business. So if you have a membership, for instance, or you want to host a membership or a course, usually there's some sort of Q&A component in there that people like to have for their audience. And most of the time people will host that live. It will be a Zoom meeting or something where their audience comes, they ask questions, get the answers. And that's not something that really works for me or for my audience. It's really hard to coordinate the global audience, let alone busy moms who just really don't have time to sit on Zoom for an hour. And so I very much moved to kind of an asynchronous Q&A time where it's more of they submit their questions. I record it at a private podcast and they get that every week. So they get their answers all within a few days. If they have more questions, the next one's just a few days away. And there's always ways to go deeper working with me, doing more synchronous stuff if it's needed. But I found that actually works really, really well. And there's all sorts of asynchronous strategies you can do as far as your sales and everything like that. But
that's awesome. So we don't have to follow the same train as everybody else. We can really get creative and figure out what works around our timeline and just kind of incorporate that. Like me too. I was like feeling like, you know what? I didn't like the commitment of having the Q&A live call in my group program. And I was like, oh, and one time I even forgot. And I was like, oh my God, as if I forgot. And so I changed. I'm like, this doesn't work for me. So I'm going to do Voxer office hours instead. And that works well for me. And that works well for my students. So it's perfect.
Yeah. I mean, that's a perfect example of knowing what works for you, your strengths, your schedule, and being in touch with your audience as well, and maybe that's not the same for whichever coach or program or whatever you're listening to, maybe they're suggesting something different. And I always say, take the chicken and leave the bones, take what works for you, make it work, and then, move on from there.
Exactly. Okay. So how can we prioritize tasks to ensure that we're using our limited time and energy effectively?
Yeah, that's a good question, because it can get really easy to get caught up in busy work, especially if there's something that you're scared of doing, or that's a really big project, or, there's imposter syndrome holding you back. It can be really easy to want to do the little busy work things that are super easy.
Guilty.
Yep. Yeah. Well, me too. I think
for me, that's copy. For me, it's copy, like writing copy for my launch right now. I'm like, what else can I do right now?
What else? I think I'll go clean the toilets or something.
Yeah.
Yes. I think we all have those kinds of tasks that we do put off. And I think a lot of it is just being very honest with ourselves and noticing that pattern. And I think it was Mark Twain who said, eat the frog first. Take that big task for the day. If there's something that you've been dreading, just sit down and tackle it first thing. Because once you get that out of the way, momentum will flow from there. Yeah.
You know what I did a couple of weeks ago? And it was like, sometimes it's almost like it's psychological, I think. So I had like this task that I have that feels like it's it's totally related to my business, but it's like I don't want it to take the time away from my business. It's silly, I know, but whatever works, right? Like, and if you're listening to this and you feel the same way about a specific task, like I wanted to sign up for ClickUp and set it up, right? And it's the same with like setting up my copy for my launch. And sometimes I'm like, but I feel that that's taking me away from working on some of the other projects. It's silly, but you know what I did is like, you know what? I'm going to take a day, like, and I mean, of course you don't have to do this, but this is what worked for me. I'm like, you know what? This weekend, this is important for my business. And so I'm going to spend Sunday and I'm going to work on ClickUp. And it felt so good to spend the time. You know, I dedicated like whatever, the afternoon of Sunday to work on my ClickUp, set it up and, you know, play around and do the things. And then it was refreshing for me because I didn't have to do it during the week and take however much time away from me working on my summit or launching my podcast or my program, right? So sometimes it's doing something like that that could work, or like choosing an evening to work on a certain task or something like that. I don't know.
I think there's a word distinction here that I see can be very helpful. And it's getting very clear on when you say you can't do something versus when you won't do it. A lot of times we say we can't do something as in we don't have time to do it, whatever. When the reality is we are choosing not to, like we won't do it. And anytime you say you can't do something, I'd like to invite you to stop and take a moment and say, well, why can't I do it? Is it really that I can't do this, or is it because I won't do it? And if you won't do it, then it's okay. What is holding you back? You won't do it because of fear. It's big, you know, it's a daunting task. You don't feel like you have time to take it on. Or is it something that it's not really a priority for you anymore? Maybe it's a goal that you had a while ago that's not really aligned with where you want to be anymore. And being very aware of you know, those goals that aren't really your goals anymore and taking those off the list. I think that's pretty key in helping keeping our to-do list flowing. So.
And that's okay. We're allowed to do that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We shift and change, our goals shift and change, everything shifts and changes as we go. And I think taking that time to check in with that, is pretty crucial.
Awesome. Okay. Lastly, what are some tips for staying motivated and focused when we're feeling overwhelmed? This, I think, is huge.
This is huge. My first answer is a little bit controversial because I would say, do you really have to do it? If you're feeling overwhelmed, I would first, if it's something that you can take time and not do, take time and go do something else, go for a walk, take a bath, read a book, you know, go clean the toilets. I don't care. Just something that does give you that bit of a break to stop that overwhelm, then I would push that suggestion first. But if it's something that you have to do, because like we said, there's stuff that you have to do day in and day out in our businesses, in our lives, then I would invite you to think about your why behind why you need to do it. You know, what is that motivating factor that is pulling you? So you're not just relying on that willpower to push you to get it done, because our willpower tanks will empty out. You know, it'll replenish eventually, but you know, if we spend all our willpower early in the morning, by the end of the day, it's going to be really, really hard to get stuff done unless we have that really passionate, motivating why that is pulling us along. So I'd say just get really clear on that.
I know. And it's really true. Like it really does work and motivate. And you know what? Like if I'm working hard and I'm like, I mean, I have teenagers, so it's easier for me I don't have a toddler at home anymore. I just have teenagers that need to be driven around all day long. But anyway, but it's easier for me to have like a full day that I can work at my desk, right? So, you know, but by noon sometimes I'm like, I'm feeling like like if, especially if it was like a heavy morning of like copywriting or something like that, or like I worked a lot or hard or whatever. And I'm like, you know what? I need a break. And I'll literally go have a bath in the middle of the day. Like I do this all the time. And then my friend laughs because it's like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. She's like, oh, are you in the bath now? Right. Because like my friends know me as like having baths at whatever time of day. Right. But that helps me to reground, and then you come out like refreshed or whatever. But that might look like a walk for you, or maybe a coffee break, or maybe a phone call to a friend or whatever. Sometimes I do that too. I'm like, ooh, I need a break, I'll call my friends, right?
Yeah,
so whatever.
exactly. Yeah, whatever that looks like for you, that can just kind of balance out that masculine energy of always doing and going, and add a little bit of the feminine energy of just being in the moment and listening to what your body and your mind need.
Yeah. Because I think at the end of the day too, like, our businesses, like, yes, we have deadlines and things like that, but nothing's an emergency.
Yeah.
Right.
Usually not. Usually
Not.
what feels overwhelming and super, urgent and important is something that can actually wait for you to get to a good place.
Yes, you can take a break.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So usually, like we said, usually, I mean, there's different circumstances. Obviously, if you're in the middle of a launch or something like that, and something happens or someone needs your immediate attention or whatever, even that sometimes it's like not urgent, doesn't have to happen this minute. But that's just like another conversation for another time. But that was such good tips and information. And you have the No BS guide to achieving any goal guide for us. Tell us a little bit about that. That's your freebie. And I'm like, can't wait to get my hands on that.
Yeah, that's my current freebie. That is just this really short 15-minute audio I put together. And I do walk through the steps to achieve any goal. This could be for your business, personal life, whatever you want to do. I can personally guarantee that if you follow these steps, you will get there. You will achieve it.
That's awesome. Because I think like a lot of us don't sit down and take the time to even just decide and write out our goals, right? And so I think that's so important. And then tying in our why into that as well. And then, we can go on, like, I think that can keep us moving in the direction of, achieving our vision and our goals, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So that's such an amazing freebie that you have for us. And if anybody's listening and they're like, I need to be in Olivia's world, where can we find you and how can we work with you?
Yeah, please. If you want to talk any further about any of this stuff, look me up and we'll just jump on a chat and go for it. I'm on social. I'm at the Bluebell Group, or you can find me at thebluebellgroup.com.
I love that. I love the name of it too. It's so different and cool.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. There's quite a story behind it, but we can save that for part 2 if you want.
Sounds good. Sounds good. And I will, of course, have the links for the freebie and how to find Olivia in the show notes for you. So thanks again so much, Olivia. It's been so great talking to you about these things. I think it's important. I think that sometimes we do get overwhelmed, but there are tips and tricks, that things we can do in order to remove the overwhelm and, just be on a path of having more balance.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me today.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much. And I will talk to you on the next episode.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Build Your Beautiful Business podcast. If you did, please make sure to subscribe, rate, and review the show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Julie's included a link in the shows to make it nice and easy for you. And if you want to create a beautiful, profitable business of your own, make sure to go unlock your access to Julie's 6 must-have resources for female entrepreneurs. These resources will help you build and grow your business with simplicity and ease. You can find them at juliecbutler.com/freebie vault. We'll see you in the next episode.